want to thank you all for coming and remind you that if anybody would like to be included on the email list, either to suggest topics for the Vaad or to be put on the list to be notified in emergency if it has to be canceled, the email address is chinuchvad123@gmail.com. Is that correct? Okay. I thank Reb Yitzchak again for setting that up. Okay, the question we're going to deal with tonight is entertaining children. And Yana Dioma, with Pesach coming up, there's the Afikomen ransoms and the Hamoed trips, and entertaining children is an important topic on everyone's mind, and we want to do it successfully. So, first I want to learn with the Olam, just quickly, a sif in Shulchan Aruch that I think has a lot of insight for all of us. Anybody know what the last siman in Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Yontif is? Anybody know? What's the last siman in Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Yontif? Okay, no one wants to offer I guess it's Dinei Simchas Yontif, the halachas of Simchas Yontif. And the Mechaber says in Sif Beis, Chayev Adam Liyos Sameach V'Tov Lei B'Moed. A person is obligated to be besimcha on Yontif. And the Mishnah Berurah brings, this is a mitzvah d'oraisa, not a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, a mitzvah d'oraisa. As it says in Pasuk, V'Samachta B'Chagecha. It's a Pasuk. Not only is an individual obligated besimcha, who, V'Ishto, his wife, U'Banav, and his children, V'Chol HaNil V'Malav, and everyone is dependent on him. Now, the Mechaber gives the guidelines for helping others to achieve simcha. Ketzad Mesamchin. How do you do it? How do you fulfill your obligation to be mesameach for people in your family? Hakatanim, children. Nosin lahem klayos ve'egoizim. You give them popcorn or parched kernels, grain, and nuts. V'anoshim konol lahem begodim v'takshitim. And women, you buy clothing and jewelry. Kafi mamono, according to what he can afford. Now, the first time I saw this Mechaber, I thought, well, this is very interesting. This doesn't conform with our reality today. When it comes to children, what child would be satisfied with a little popcorn and some nuts? That would be Simchas Yontif. That would be Tisha B'Av. It wouldn't be Simchas Yontif. So I first thought as well, of course, we know a lot of things in halacha, nishtana hateva, right? I mean, the size of a zayis is approximately half an egg, but our zaysim are the size of an olive. It's much smaller than half an egg. But we know it's nishtana hateva. In the time of Chazal, the olives were much bigger, the size of half an egg. So it's nishtana hateva with the size of olives. So maybe children also with nishtana hateva. They have different hasagas today than it did years ago. However, when you look further, when the Mechaber tells us how to be mesameach noshim, it says konol lahem begodim v'takshitim, buy clothes and jewelry for noshim. Well, there's certainly no nishtana hateva there. That's the way they're mesameach noshim today. That's how they get a simcha. So if there's no nishtana hateva regarding how to bring simcha to women, and we could certainly have a whole Vaad just on that, but that isn't our topic for this evening, then we have to conclude that there's no nishtana hateva regarding the children either. Now, if the children at the time of Chazal were the same as children today, so what is the Mechaber telling us? We know in our reality, in our homes, that's not going to cut it. A few nuts and some popcorn. We're not going to get away so easily with that for Simchas Yontif, for Chol Hamoed, or for an Afikomen. So what is the Mechaber telling us? So I think Rabbi said the Mechaber is telling us a very, very fundamental yesod. The key to unlock the mystery of how to entertain children successfully, whether it's Chol Hamoed or with Afikomen presence, and that is managing expectations. Now, I've put this into a kind of a mathematical formula. It might make it easier to remember and easier to wrap your arms around. Disappointment equals, if I had a blackboard, I'd write it on the blackboard, equal sign. Disappointment equals the difference between expectation and reality. Expectation minus reality equals disappointment. Now what does that mean, Rabbosai? That means if our expectations are inflated, pumped up very high, and the reality is much smaller, then we have huge disappointment. However, if we're able to lower the expectation and at least raise the reality up close to the expectation, then there's no disappointment. And when there's no disappointment, that's simcha. When there's great disappointment, you can't be misameach. You can't be happy. And children are certainly not going to be happy if they're disappointed. So the question then becomes, how do you manage expectations in order for the children to be happy and enjoy things? Well, I think the Mechaber is hinting at that when he says, how do you be misameach children? Nosin lahem klayas ve'egozim. I think the underlying message of the Mechaber is that the job of a parent is to manage expectations of their children. And if we do what we can to keep those expectations as low as possible, then the children will be as happy as possible. And that's, after all, the goal. And that's our obligation. That's our mitzvah of simcha shantiv. Now, how did I come to this realization? I'll tell you the truth, Rabbosai. I learned the hard way. And I want to tell you a personal experience that I had when my kids were younger. On Chol Hamoed, as Yontif was approaching, my wife and I decided, let's do something special. Let's give the kids a really good time. What we're going to do, we're going to take them to an amusement park. Now, we saw an ad in the paper a few weeks before Yontif that a certain amusement park, not too far from our home, was being rented out by a yeshiva. All the proceeds were going to tzedakah, and the whole place was going to be just from people. Well, what could be better than that? Kosher venue, only going to be from people going there, and then we're going to be like goyim, and the money's all going to tzedakah. Terrific. We told the kids they're going to the amusement park, and they were so thrilled and so excited. And they were so pumped, they're going to the amusement park, they couldn't wait, they were so excited. And my wife and I were so proud of ourselves, we thought we're doing such a terrific job. Look how happy they are, it isn't even Chol Hamoed yet. So, the day finally came, we go out to the amusement park. And of course, we weren't the only ones that had the idea that this would be a good thing to do on Chol Hamoed. We weren't the only ones that saw the ad in the paper. The place is packed. Long lines for each ride. Okay, it was a hot day. I think it was a sukkah. I'm not sure. I don't think it was Pesach. I think it was a sukkah. They didn't have a sukkah there. I remember that. So it was hot. It was getting hungry, getting thirsty. But the kids are having a good time. That's the main thing. So waiting on the lines to go on the rides. Of course, not each kid wants to go on the same rides. Some kids want to go on this ride. Some kids want to go on that ride. Couldn't do all together. Had to wait for this one. We tried to do the best we could. After about 4 hours, maybe it was 5 hours, my wife and I are finished. We're exhausted. We're hot. We're tired. We're hungry. I try not to eat outside the sukkah, so there was no place for me to take a nash. There was no sukkah at that particular amusement park. It was the end of the day. My wife said we have to go home and make supper for the kids, have to get them in. We have to leave. Okay, it's time to leave. What do you mean time to leave? I didn't go on the big slide. I didn't go on the crazy wheel. I didn't go on this and then go on that. Well, we went on a lot of rides. We spent a lot of money. It's time to go home. But I didn't go on this ride, and I didn't go on that ride. Okay, we can't go on all the rides. We have to go home. Well, disappointment reigns supreme. At least let's buy some nash. We have nash. We don't have to buy nash. We have nash. Well, let's get a souvenir at least. We don't need the souvenirs. They're overpriced or expensive. We spent plenty of money. The yeshiva made a lot of money. We're going home. Going home. No nash. No souvenirs. And we're missing the best rides in the whole place. What kind of a Chol Hamoed is that? So there was sad faces. And my wife and I were short-tempered and very, very disappointed ourselves. We thought the kids would be thrilled. We spent so much money, so much time. We're exhausted, took off a whole day. There's so much waiting for us when we get back home that we have to take care of, that we put on hold just to give the kids a good time. And now they're upset and disappointed with us and disappointed with the whole day. Well, we get in the car, and my wife and I were very disappointed in the reaction of our children. And it was silence in our car. As we're driving out of the parking lot, it took a while to get out of the parking lot. A lot of other cars were leaving around the same time. And then I noticed, as I'm waiting online to sort of get out of the parking lot, I'm looking into the other cars. And I'm seeing, in this car, the kids are crying. In this car, the father's yelling. In this car, the mother's yelling. The kids are crying. Long faces. Everyone's upset. I said, it's not just in our car. I felt a little encouraged. Tzaras Rabim Chatzi Nechama. At least I saw I wasn't the only one. And every car pulling out of the parking lot, the kids were upset. The parents were angry. Everyone looked frustrated, tired, upset, and disappointed. I said, Ribbon Shalom, what's going on here? What did we do wrong? Well, I had a long ride back in the car with no one saying anything to give some serious thought to this. And I realized we had such a fiasco, and it was our own fault. Because we didn't follow the instructions that the Mechaber was trying to teach us. Manage the expectations. We let the expectations run wild before Chol Hamoed. And our kids were all excited and pumped up. But this was a disaster waiting to happen. Because the expectations were up here, and the reality could never reach that high. So, according to the equation, if disappointment equals expectation minus reality, if the expectation's all the way up here, and the reality's down here, the disappointment is huge. And that's why everyone was upset. So I was studying this on the way home, and I said, let me see if I can learn from this, at least not to make the same mistake twice. Let me see if I could maybe next Chol Hamoed do things differently. So I tried to apply the lesson of the Mechaber when the next Chol Hamoed ran around. And we B'davka went to an amusement park. But this time I said, by the way, I'm just announcing before Yontif, 4 rides. That's it. Don't ask for a 5th. You're getting 4 rides. Nash, we're taking from home. And there's no souvenirs. Don't even think of souvenirs. Well, we went to the amusement park. There were 4 rides. Only 4 rides. So the kids knew they want to go on this ride, they better go on it now because they're only getting 4. They want to go on that ride, they better go now because they're only getting 4. After 4 rides, it went rather smoothly. There wasn't such big lines. We had more time. You know what? We'll let you go on a 5th. A 5th ride? You said only 4, Tati. You said only 4. You know, you behaved yourself very well today. You're going on a 5th ride. A 5th ride? Well, I wasn't expecting that. No complaining about the souvenirs. They knew. Don't talk to Tati about souvenirs. There's no souvenirs. Nash, they had from home. They were very happy to have the Nash. They came back. They said, does anybody want to say anything? Oh, yes, Tati, thank you so much. Mommy, thank you so much for taking the music park. They were happy. They were joyous. They were talking about the wonderful time they had. What a difference 6 months could make. What a difference that this message, the guideline of the Mechaber, can make. So, if we want to entertain children, we have to remember the guideline that the Mechaber is trying to teach us, that you have to manage expectations. If you keep the expectations low, promise less and give more. Don't say we'll see. We'll see inflates the expectation. We'll see means what I want, not what you want. Keep it limited try to manage the expectations, try to let the children feel that it's going to be maybe not everything they wanted, but it's going to be limited. And then if you're generous and you add something that they weren't expecting, or you buy a bag of popcorn or potato chips or a can of soda, then they'll be in seventh heaven, and you'll be able to successfully be mekayim your mitzvah of simchas yontif. So let me wish you all not only a kosher, but a freilich and yontif, and hopefully we'll be able to utilize this message from the mechaber and apply it to our bnei bayis, so that everyone will truly have a simchas yontif. And I wish you a good yontif, and just remind you, the next Vaad, Bezos Hashem, will take place 4 weeks from tonight, which comes out to May 8th, which is the first day of Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So it'll be the end of Bein Hazmanim. We'll convene again, and if anyone wants to suggest topics, again, you can submit that to the email address chinuchvad123@gmail.com. Thank you all for coming.